I am the program manager at the Undergraduate Research Center, and I work with a few different programs, NSF LSAMP Camp, the MERPS program, and the Innovation Institute for Food and Health program as well. I'm also the staff coordinator for SACNAS, the Davis chapter. SACNAS is Society Advancing Chicanos and Native Americans in Science. So, first of all, I want to get to know who you are. So if you don't mind, please take the time to drop your major in the chat section. I just want to see who is in the room. So, and while you are doing that, I'll go ahead and continue just to let you know that approximately 50% of UC Davis students participate in research. We are a Research One institution. So you are here obviously because you're interested in research, which is a great thing. So hopefully today you'll learn some tips and things that will be helpful for you as you begin your research journey. So we often get the question, who can conduct research? Does it have to be just STEM majors? Absolutely not. Anyone can conduct research regardless of what your major is. So, and research takes many different forms. So depending on what your major is, it will look differently. So there a list here, several things that you can do for your research. Data collection and analysis often happens for people who are conducting surveys, etc. There's a lot of field work. There's the standard lab work as well, bench work. Still work building and testing models for those of you who are engineering students. Solving problems is a huge part of the research. And just really quickly, here are some of the projects that we have from previous undergraduate research conferences. And most of these are STEM related, but it just gives you an idea. Here's another field work research, working directly with faculty. All of this is part of research. And there are a lot of benefits to conducting research. And I'll just really quickly list these benefits. The number one thing I believe is the critical thinking and analytical skills. Also, if you're part of a program or just research in general, you're working in a group, in a lab with other students, so the teamwork is developed there as well. You develop communication skills, leadership skills, etc. I think probably one of the biggest things that I've noticed, especially with the students in my programs, are that it increases self-confidence, and that is really huge. You also get to connect with faculty across disciplines, and you're applying what you learn to the real world as well. And another biggie is you also get to earn letters of recommendation for graduate or professional school. So that's really key for a lot of students as well. So what you want to do is you want to determine your areas in research. So this is a really good thing for students who are just trying to figure out what you want to do, what you're interested in, you're not really sure. Well, this session, you'll actually have time to be able to think about what it is that you want to do, and we are going to put that into practice as well. So hopefully you have your computers ready to where you're going to be able to look up information regarding faculty. We have a worksheet for you as well, where you can list what your interests are and find faculty that you can hopefully connect with. So what we're going to do is we're going to visit the different websites. We're going to look at the different interests. Some of the things that you can also do is look at some of the conference web pages as well, and find different examples. We have something called an abstract book on our website, urc.ucdavis.edu, and you can get an idea of the type of research that has been conducted before in the past by students. Another thing is you can talk to your instructors, your TAs of your courses. That's a really great idea. Also, any peer advisors, and I also recommend that you reach out to them and ask questions via an informational interview. That's a really good way to find out what it is that the faculty or the graduate student is working on, and see if that, interests you. You also want to take advantage of events like this one during Undergraduate Research Week. Hopefully you've attended other events and presentations as well, but hopefully it will give you some ideas to sort of get the ball rolling as to what you want to do your research in. You can also talk to other students engaged in research. So if you know someone who's currently working in a lab, definitely reach out to them and ask questions and find out how they got their position, etc. So what you're going to do, basically, we tell you to do your research in advance. So figure out what you want to do, and then you're going to look at the faculty members to see who might be a good match for you. So you're going to contact them directly. You're also going to look at their website. That's the first thing that you would do. So depending on your major or your interest, you would go to that particular website and do a search and find out what it is that the faculty does. All of that information is listed on their website. So it will detail their education, their experience, their research interests, any of their publications will also be listed as well. And most students know or have a sense as to what it is that they want to do. So sometimes you'll find a profile and you're like, wow, this is amazing. I definitely want to work with this person, or I would love to connect with him, or just to learn more, right? And this is where the informational interviews will come in handy as well. You can also see on those websites who has sponsored undergraduate students in their lab. Most of them will have a lab possibly named after them. And you'll see pictures of the faculty member with their undergraduate students as well. And that's a pretty good indication that they are taking students, or they have in the past. So might be something worth noting. You can also attend office hours and ask faculty about their research. The main thing, and this is what we're going to cover a little later on today, is you're going to reach out to them via email, and you're going to let them know, just be upfront. Let them know why you're interested in a position and when you're available. You also want to prepare a resume. So I'm not sure how many of you already have a resume or not, but I do want to put a plug in for the Internship and Career Center. It is the center who has, they have a lot of workshops available to help you. If you already have a resume and you just want somebody else to look it over to see if there's something that you're missing or something else that you can include, they're happy to do that with you as well. You can make an appointment. But again, take a look at their website. If you don't mind, would you put their website in the chat? And you can take a look at their list of workshops that are being offered every quarter. The other thing is, when you're contacting the faculty, you want to make sure that you address them properly. You want to use correct grammar and title. So before you send that, have somebody else take a look at it, especially if you're doing it late at night or whatever. It's always good just to have a second eye, because that email is really important. It's communicating basically who you are, what your style is, based on how you presented yourself in that email. So that's really key. You also want to include in that email when you're available to meet. I always say, make sure you ask for a meeting with that person. That does a number of different things, but really also when you provide your availability, the onus is on them now to respond back to you with a yes or no, or availability, or yes, I'm happy to meet with you to provide more information about my lab, etc. And then if you do not get a response right away, follow up be sure to follow up with the professor. There's a number of reasons why they may or may not get back to you right away. Sometimes your email may go to spam. They may just be really inundated with emails as well, and they may have missed your email. Do not take it personally. Just be persistent and follow up with them. Allow a week or so to go by and say, I'm just circling back around, wanted to make sure that you saw my email, or I just wanted to follow up to let you know I'm really interested in meeting with you, or I'd like to know more about your lab, etc. So where to look for details. This is going to be really important, and this is where you're going to participate in this part right now. What I'm going to do is stop sharing my screen, and then I'll go right back to it. And I would like for you all to pull up the UC Davis website. So that's ucdavis.edu. Go ahead and pull up the website and go back to sharing my screen. Oops. Okay, for some reason I am having a difficult time trying to also pull up my screen while I'm on here and sharing. So I will walk you through it all. Go ahead and pull up the UC Davis website, and where it says, just hit the search button. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to go to your department of interest. And I'm just going to use chemistry as an example. So I would type in chemistry and hit enter. And then if you notice, there is a section under chemistry that lists faculty, right? So this should be true for every website. So you can go under people for chemistry, and it says faculty. You pull that up, and then it will show a list. We'll have a list of professors, right? And then you could just click on their information. And as a part of their information, it will, again, as I mentioned, it will detail their experience. So it gives a little brief introduction, possibly has their CV that lists their education, their awards, their professional highlights. It also lists their publications. So this will be really important as you're looking at that. The publication piece of it, they will also include links to their articles or publications. So that is really key. And I want to encourage you all to actually take a look at some of their publications. I'll share why a little later, especially when you are reaching out to the professor. Okay, so let me go back and share my screen again. Yeah. Okay, there it is. All right, let me just really quickly fast forward. Sorry about that. Here we go. So now onto emails. Okay, I'm going to allow you to take a look at this email. And if you could just drop in the chat some of the things that you notice about this email. And if you can read this for me, that would be great, because I'm not seeing them in this share mode.
Oh, dear Dr. Jessica, I am a senior biology student and looking for research. Do you still have available opposition in your lab? I am looking forward to hear from you. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for reading the email. So as people are dropping things in the chat, if you can kind of, call out some of their comments, that would be great.
Sure.
Obviously, I mean, this email it's pretty obvious. It's a short email. There's a lot going on. The proper title, it may or may not have been used. If they're a professor, I would state, dear professor, unless you know the professor and they have given you permission. But even still, I always say err on the side of caution and just give them the respect that is due to them and call them professor and their last name. That is how I personally address faculty as well, unless I know them very, very well. Also, you see the grammar is wrong. They misspelled words. And then they did mention why they're interested in their research. This isn't a very thorough email. And then here's another email that you can really quickly see. I'll go through this fairly quickly because I want to make sure we have time for the assignment later. So it's not very detailed, right? And these are actual emails that faculty have received. So I want to make sure that you guys don't do this. I'm sure none of you would, but it's really important. You want to make sure that you are addressing it appropriately, that it is a professional email as well. So here's an anatomy of a good email. Basically, what you want to do is you want to make sure you include all of the relevant information. Dear professor, last name. You want to include who you are, your class level, your major, any other relevant things, and why you're interested in the position. Let them know up front that's what you're looking for as a research position. And also, your availability is really important. List your skills, etc. And one of the other things is you definitely want to include your resume, as I mentioned before. So here is an example, and I'll allow you to go ahead and read that. And this student pretty much covers a lot of the really key information. And again, pointing out how important it is to include that resume. And the reason being is that resume shows whether or not you have research experience. It doesn't matter. What a resume does is it proves, first of all, that you put one together, but it also shows your work history. Even if you don't have a lot of work history, maybe you've participated in clubs or organizations, different things like that. It shows that you're able to, I guess, work together with other people in a team, in a group, etc. Especially if you've held positions or whatever. That's really what faculty are looking for. Like, are you able to work with others? Are you able to demonstrate a history of showing up somewhere, right? Being on time, all of those things. That's what a resume does. It also gives them a little brief picture as to who you are and what you're like. And some of that can be found out also based off of, the different volunteering opportunities that you've taken advantage of as well. So here is an actual example of a good email that was sent to our director of the Undergraduate Research Center, Dr. Annalisa France. So go ahead and take a moment to read that over. And you can see that they've listed a lot of really important details in here, including their availability and how many hours that they're available. This, was specifically for the summer as well. But, during the academic year, you want to mention, okay, have this much time to devote. And for these research positions, you can consider it as a part-time job, really. Most students dedicate anywhere from 10 to 12 hours a week. But I will say that students get so immersed in their research, they really enjoy it. So they wind up spending a lot more time than that. So sometimes it can mean your evenings or your weekends as well, especially when you're trying to obtain results, etc. So I would just say make sure that you have a balance. right? So while you're conducting the research, you don't want to spend all your time on that because you're really here for your academics as well. So I had to share this email that I received from a student who was applying for a research position. And I just thought it was just so well written. Now, she did not use professor in their last name. She used their full name. But that was the only thing that I noticed and saw. But I noticed in this email, she was very thorough and I thought it was great. And if you look at the second paragraph, she talks about her interest in this particular field. And it was personal for her. She has a daughter who is on the autism spectrum disorder. And she mentioned that and why it was important and why that, you know, basically allowed her to be interested in wanting to pursue this type of work. I just thought it was really excellent. And then on top of that, she was trying to obtain a position in the cognition and context lab. She also included her resume. And I just wanted to, when I saw this, I was like, wow, this is excellent because it basically puts everything right there. Like there's no question as to who this person is. You don't have to be this thorough, but she was. So I'm just providing a really great example of a student who really lists out her information. She also includes her degrees, her progress, her publications, her awards, etc. If you don't have that, that's perfectly fine. But as you're building your resume or your CV, you want to think about obtaining positions that can help suit you well, basically, as you're trying to build your resume and your portfolio. So she also goes on, she mentions her speaking invitations and the lectures that she's given as well. And this is a brand new transfer student coming to UC Davis. Okay, so what comes next? Now what? Okay, so it's important that, let's say they say yes to you. You want to understand what the expectations are of the faculty members. So when you meet with them, you want to ask all the questions that you can. Really, you are interviewing them as well, right? It's not just them interviewing you. Oh, that's the other thing. If they say yes to you to a meeting, really, that is code for an interview, right? You should treat it as such. So you want to make sure you come prepared with questions, with all of your information. Again, you can provide a resume in advance so they can address any questions they may have of your resume or your work, etc. And that's really important for that meeting. And also, I had mentioned you're interviewing them. You want to make sure it's a good fit, right? Sometimes students are really excited to get that yes from a faculty member. I always say spread the net out far and wide. Instead of just emailing one professor, you know, email 3 to 5 professors and see what happens. And then that way you can sort of determine, well, which lab or which position is right for me, right? You have a choice, which would be great. So once you do get that position, we always say present your work. You know, we have the Undergraduate Research Conference that we provide every year. This is huge, right? Every conference that you attend and you present, whether it's attending or actually presenting, you could put this on your resume as well. And then we also encourage you, once you're part of this experience, you should definitely share it with others. And most students are more than happy to do that because it's such a wonderful, positive experience for students that they want to tell other people about it. And there are a number of different ways that you can get involved and do that. We have programs, which I'll mention briefly, but we also have positions like at the Undergraduate Research Center, we have undergraduate research ambassadors for students who have participated in research and now they want to go out and help do recruitment, etc. So I mentioned presenting your research. These are some of our students in the NSF LSAM camp program who presented at UC Irvine, where you can actually win awards for presenting as well. This is the Undergraduate Research Conference, Creative Scholarships and Activities Conference that is held every year. This past year it was held virtually, and it was a huge success. We had a lot of students participated in that conference. So again, once you conduct your research, we want you to share it. So I did mention programs. So programs are a great way for you to be able to get immersed in research, but also help you. The programs listed here, we have CAMP, MERPS, McNair, UC Leeds. These are programs that all help to recruit and retain students and help facilitate their academic success and encourage them to go on to graduate school. So I can tell you now, the two programs that I did mention that I'm also responsible for are the CAMP program and the MERPS program. And you can go to our website to find out more information about this, but we are currently recruiting new students. The application requires that you submit one, a letter of recommendation from faculty as well. If you are a new transfer student, we require transcripts, but if you're a current student, we can look up your record, so that won't be necessary. But the applications are reviewed by a committee, and select applicants will be reviewed, and then we will notify them in late November. But the application deadline is coming up pretty quickly. The application is very simple. So it doesn't take like all day or anything like that, maybe 5 to 10 minutes of your time, but it is due on Monday, October 19th. That is the priority deadline. And I say that because there are only so many spots available, so it's always good to apply early. We do have a final deadline of October 26th. And then the letters of recommendation are also due on Monday, October 26th. But you can find out more information by going to urc.ucdavis.edu. So now is the time, the portion, we have 20 minutes, which is great, where you are going to research faculty. So basically what you're going to do, we're going to have Dee drop information, a link to a form that you can actually utilize, and you're going to spend some time looking up the faculty within your department. So the faculty that you're interested in working with, etc. And you can do it in more than just one department. So whatever your interests are, that's like, let's say you're engineering, but you want to do research in music or something like that. You can also look up faculty in the music department and come up with a list of names. So what I want you to do is go ahead and pull that up, and I will allow about 15 minutes of your time. We'll start with 10 minutes actually, just in case there are questions. I want to make sure we have time for that. And then I want you to go ahead and fill out that sheet, right? So go ahead and research the faculty, look up their publications, etc. And while you're doing that, one of the things I did want to mention is about their publication and articles. That is a great segue, a great way to let the faculty member know that you've researched them, that you've done your homework. You can mention something about their article. Take the time out to read their article and say, you know, I had questions about your article on, you know, and mention that in the email. What that does for the faculty is shows that you've taken the initiative to go an extra step, which they love, right? Because you're not just waiting for information to happen and come to you, you're being proactive, and you're reaching out, you're reading information about the professor, and hopefully that will also inform some of your questions that you will ask of them as well. So it's one way to make yourself a little bit more competitive. So again, go ahead and fill out that form, go to the department website. You're going to research the faculty, identify at least 3 to 5 faculty members of interest. And then time allowing, we're going to write an email draft to that faculty. So, and that really, that draft should not take very long, just a brief introduction. You can always come to that later, but really this workshop is designed to get you motivated and get you started on the process. Sometimes the daunting task can be just getting started. So go ahead and take the time to do that.
I'm not sure if this was mentioned before, but could we email a graduate student who is in the lab? Because I think I know a graduate student who is in the lab that I'm interested in.
You can email the graduate student, most definitely. Sometimes the graduate students will conduct the search for the faculty. So that's perfectly fine, but you also want to, again, give the respect to the person whose lab it is that you will be working in. So maybe a better idea would be to email the faculty member and copy the graduate student, because more than likely the graduate student will be the one responding to you.
I see. So CC the graduate student.
I would.
Okay.
Yes. So while you're still looking at that, I did want to address one of the questions. When is a good time to start emailing was a question that one of you raised. And I always say there's no time like the present, right? Now is a good time because everyone is on email. You know that they're paying attention. And also, you know, we've had some students who may have decided not to continue because of the whole online learning. So you never know. Go ahead and let them know that you're interested, and they may or may not respond back to you. They may have a position available, but if they don't, they'll let you know, and they'll likely tell you when they will be recruiting for new students as well. So always email them, and then believe it or not, they'll probably remember your name. So the next time you follow up with them, they'll say, oh yeah, this student had emailed me before. So always go ahead and reach out. You know, it's always a good time is basically the answer to that question. One of the things I also wanted to address is, you know, you're not going to be in the lab right now with the current situation. Most of the research will be conducted online. So, you know, you want to be a little bit flexible and patient with that too, because a lot of faculty, they really want to help. I've received a lot of emails from faculty who say, oh, I would love to be able to offer a position to a student, but because I'm online. Well, there are other things that you can do as far as your research. I know a lot of faculty who have students doing the behind the scenes research. They're looking up information. They are conducting surveys. etc. So don't discount that as well. So, you know, again, now is a really good time to get your foot in the door. And then once we are back on campus, you know, hopefully you'll be ready to go. Okay, so hopefully you were able to get an idea as to, you know, the best way to start this process. And it's really just getting started. That can sometimes be the hurdle. So hopefully this workshop was able to provide some really good information for you, but also just that little push, that little nudge to get you started. If you have a moment, go ahead and construct that email, like the first email. And really you can use the same email structure for all of the faculty members that you're going to contact. But again, you want to include the information that will be relevant to that particular person. So the structure will be the same, but you may include information, especially if you've read their publications or articles. You want to make sure that you include the right information for that faculty member. So just go ahead and take a couple of minutes just to draft the first, even the first few sentences. Again, that's one way to get started. Okay, awesome. Okay, I just want to be mindful of the time, and I want to make sure that we have time for Q&A session. I saw that there were some questions in the chat room, and we were able to address some of those questions. Dee, if there are any questions that I may have missed, feel free to go ahead and speak that. But right now, Dee, you're muted.
Thank you.
Okay, so if there are any questions, pardon me?
Let me check through and see.
Okay, so while Dee is checking for questions in the chat room, if either of you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask your questions. While we're waiting, one of the things that I did want to mention is the follow-up and how important that is for a number of different reasons. I did mention that the faculty member could be very, very busy, but I've also had faculty members tell me personally that sometimes, not always, but sometimes they will not respond to the first email on purpose. They want to see the student who is tenacious, who is persistent, who really wants a position, right? So they'll wait to see if you reach out to them again. So don't take it personally if you don't hear back from them the first time. Not all faculty do that, but some do, and I can see why, especially let's say you have tons of students who want a position in your lab, right? You want that person who's really going to go after it. So if you don't hear back, send a follow-up email. Wait about a week or so, send a follow-up email. It's good to be persistent. You don't want to be like stalking, but you know, an email or two is perfectly fine.
Alita, I have a question from the chat that I'm not sure got answered. It is, the labs I'm interested in has an application process. Should I still send them an email?
Yeah, so, and I believe I did respond to that in the chat as well, but yeah,
Okay.
I would definitely follow up with an email because again, it gets you on their radar. Your name will stand out. They will like, oh, I've seen that name somewhere before, right? And again, that's part of that being persistent to let them know that you're interested. So even if there is an application process, you can introduce yourself, let them know who you are and why you're interested in the position, etc. That goes a long way.
What do you recommend putting in the follow-up email?
In the follow-up email, just that you can say, I'm just following up regarding my previous email. I want to let you know that I am available, you know, yada, 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 fill in the blank. And I would really like the opportunity to be able to meet with you. Keep it short and sweet. You don't have to go on and on because they have the previous email. And I know for me, sometimes when students follow up, I really appreciate it because we get so many emails, right? And it's like, oh yeah, I have to get back to the student. So it could be a nice reminder, but keep it short and sweet and they can always refer back to your previous email.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm a freshman right now, and so I'm still in my first quarter, but I just wanted to know what would be a good time for me to start reaching out.
Whenever you are ready. So I can say we have some students who are so motivated. They've actually obtained research positions before they actually came to UC Davis. So that is possible. We have some students who start their positions as first-year students and they wind up staying with that lab all throughout. You can do that, or you can have multiple experiences. So I would say, again, there's no time like the present. So if you're ready for research, you can begin it now. If this fall quarter is your first quarter, you know, things are really different because we're not on campus, but just sort of get your feet wet a little bit. Now, this quarter is a really good time to reach out. And if you want to begin it next quarter, you know, if there's a position available, that's a good time as well. Or you can take the time to, the first quarter, 2 or 3, to really think about what it is that you want to do, attend more events like this, talk to your peers, talk to faculty, and then start reaching out as well. But again, now throw that net out there and see what happens.
All right, thank you.
Benjamin, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm busy and I don't want to overpromise my availability. So I was thinking of something like 5 hours a week, but then I know myself and sometimes I underestimate what I can do. Would it scare a professor off maybe to say something a bit on the lower end, like 5 hours, or how should I approach that?
Well, I would probably say the lower end of 10 hours, because to be honest, 5 hours is probably not going to be enough time for you to even feel comfortable about the research that you're doing. But it really depends on the type of research. Like if you know that you're really efficient online and you can gather information together and provide it, or maybe conduct surveys or different things like that, and you know you're really good at it, and it doesn't take you as long as it would other people, then, that's one thing. But I would still mention I'm available at least 10 hours a week, because that's typically the minimum. And then if you can work really smart and accomplish 5 hours, accomplish what you need to in 5 hours, that's great, right? So that's one way of looking at it, but you don't want that to be a deterrent from faculty saying, oh, you're not available enough, right? So on average, 10 to 12 hours is pretty typical. But again, you'll probably find yourself spending way more time than that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great questions. Any other questions? Okay, well, it is exactly 1 o'clock. So I want to encourage you to complete your forms if you haven't already. Continue your search, looking for faculty, and make a commitment. Challenge yourself, right? This quarter to, even if it's just, okay, I'm going to send 1 email. Try it and see what happens. Again, my recommendation is at least 5 emails, but do what you're comfortable with. This is all for you. Go ahead and draft that email. If you're not certain about the email and you need an extra eye, feel free. Dee, can you go ahead and put my email in the chat?
Sure.
Feel free to send me an email as well. I'm happy to help in any way I can. Awesome. Okay, and then just again want to put out a plug for the remainder of events that is happening this week for Undergraduate Research Week. Take a look at the schedule on our website, urc.ucdavis.edu. We have some upcoming presentations, including on Friday. There will be a presentation about the Camp and MERPS programs. Those are specific programs that have specific requirements. So I encourage you to take a look at the website first to see if you're qualified. And if you are, we invite you to come and check out the information. Okay, I want to thank you all for your time, and I wish you luck in your search.